This is the Rolling with Tay podcast. I'm your host, Tasia, aka Tay, and this is episode 16. And on this episode, we have Melissa. I met Melissa back in 2016 I think it was 2016, in Costa Rica. I was out there with my mom and my aunt and my cousin, and we went on this tour, and I met Melissa, and I met her friend Terrence. Terrence, I think, was going home, and was left on the tour was Melissa, myself, and my family. And after that, we just hung out the whole time on the tour, got to know each other better. And then I come to find out that she lives in Harlem. So I met someone in Costa Rica who lives probably less than 10 miles away from me. So ever since then, we've stayed in contact. Even trying to plan some trip together. We haven't gone on any trips together, but at least we attempted.
We attempted, yes.
We attempted. But yeah, so I want to talk to her about traveling, a little bit about running, and then represent which we'll get into a little bit later. But thank you for being a guest on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. You know, I'm fortunate to know all the cool people and they get to invite me to do all the cool things. So thanks for having me.
Oh, man. So we'll just get right on into it.
Okay.
What sparked the interest in traveling?
I think the interest for traveling, it was always there, being West Indian, born and raised in Trinidad. In particular, my grandmother's from Tobago, but I was born and raised on the island of Trinidad. Like most West Indian folks, you know, they have relatives that immigrate to different parts of North America, different parts of Europe. So I have a few aunts that moved and they settled in New York. So even as a child, like coming to New York City, that was something that I did pretty often. Mm-hmm. So like summertime, Easter vacation, we would go to Tobago or Sister Island, and we'd spend, vacations there. So getting on a plane it was just commonplace for me. So I didn't really think of it as, oh my gosh, I have to go see this world. It was just kind of part and parcel of what we did. I think for me, like what really made me be like, oh my gosh, like it's a big world out there and I have to see all those things. Maybe in high school and then coming into college, where in high school, the geography and the social studies that you're exposed to, at least for me, it's all these cultures and communities on the other side of the world from me. And, you think like, oh my gosh, like there are people that dress like this and they look like this, but I may never actually ever make it to where this happens and to witness it in real life. And then coming here, I started living here when I started college as an undergrad student, and I've continued living here 20 something years later since then. And just having friends, like making friends from different Caribbean islands or different regions of the world. And, you start noticing the similarities or the differences between your cultures. And it's like, hey, I want to see where you grew up. I want to hear that language for myself. I want to see that dress code for myself. I want to see that food being made for myself. So I think that's where it came, at least for me. It wasn't like this big epiphany. It just was a natural evolution. So yeah, caveat, my dad, one of his hobbies is besides playing cars and stuff like that, he is a historian to his heart. So we always had books about the continent of Africa in our home and stuff like that. So yeah, it's always learning was always happening, Tasia, whether we were at school or not. Learning was always happening. I'm from a family of educators, so learning was always happening. Okay, so
nice. That's how it should be. Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. In a nutshell, and as you mentioned in your introduction, Terrence, who we went to college together, he
Mm.
works in the aviation industry. And, he, because of the nature of his job and the accessibility, he would, travel and go to all these places.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it just never really occurred to me to just kind of invite myself along to do stuff, you know. Fast forward into my adulthood, left teaching for a few years, and I was just kind of waiting for the universe to give me a sign, some kind of epiphany to know what next, what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the universe said that you need time to yourself. You need to be selfish. It's okay to be selfish. And take time for yourself. And by taking time for yourself, go on trips. It doesn't have to necessarily be out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Atlantic City for the weekend and go by yourself. Like, there's no need to wait, for anybody to be a +1 or your +3 or your +5 or whatever. Just go. And that's what I started doing. Just whenever I had a weekend or relatives were in town or something like that, hey, let's go to Connecticut for a few days. Let's go to Atlantic City for a few days. So the travel bug started then, like really trying to expand my, like, be diligent, I should say, about where it is I wanted to go and what I wanted to see. In that was probably 2013 to 2014-ish,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like. So as I said, I left teaching, so I had nothing else to do in the day, because I call my friends, so all teachers, I call them at 1 p.m. And they're like, I can't talk to you right now. And I'm like, well, why you can't talk to me? Because clearly you answered my phone call. And they're like, because I'm at work. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to find ways to channel my free time. So running was one way how I channeled my free time. And just seeing all of the United States, at least as much as possible, that I could. And I think most people, they kind of travel, like if you live in the tri-state, you kind of travel along the eastern seaboard. So most
Mm-hmm.
people, that's how we start. And my same friend Terrence, he had just moved to Hawaii. He wasn't living there very long. So he's in a new place. So, and he's like, come visit. So I ended up staying 2 weeks out there in Hawaii with him, like 1 week on the Big Island, and 1 week he lived in Honolulu. So 1 week
Mm-hmm.
there, and came back home. And I'm like, you know what? Let me just go ahead, continue seeing the world. And as I said, I had all this free time on my hand. Expedia and Google, all the search engines were my friends. And that's just kind of what I did all the time. I'm a planner by
Mm-hmm.
nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just kind of track flights, and I'd find, affordable flights to wherever. And that's what I did. So I think after Hawaii, the next thing I did was I think I flew out to Seattle. This was solo. So this is my first like solo stuff in the
Mm.
country.
Mm-hmm.
Flew out to Seattle, took a Bolt bus from Seattle to um, Oregon, to Portland specifically,
Mm-hmm.
and then flew back from Oregon back to New York City. And I was just like, this is so amazing. Like, this is really nice. Like, just this freedom to be out here and to not be on anyone's schedule, to
Yep.
get up, go do whatever I want. It was a great experience. And I was just like, Melissa, I can't believe, you're 30 something and you're now discovering this. Like you could actually go see shit on your own, like
Mm-hmm.
you don't really need a group of 5 to go see the world. So yeah, so that's how that started. And not to get too long-winded, because I'm sure you have other questions to ask. But that's really where it started for me. And it's like, well, if I can do this, if I can travel to these states on my own, like where else can I find a cheap ticket to go to and go explore on my own? So yeah.
Well, that was great. I'm glad that you said all that because now I have a bunch of questions.
Okay.
So, okay. First question. How many states have you been to?
Oh, I counted it the other day. I think I'm up to 20 somebody. Oh, that's really bad. I counted the other day, Tisha. I think I've been to like 20 something states, no more than 30
Okay.
states so
Okay.
far.
Okay. That's good. That's good. How many countries have you been to?
How many countries that I keep track of? I've been to I've been to 24 because and the reason why I keep track of it because my daughter, she's will be 12 in a few weeks, so she's a hop and a skip away from 12. And so she's always asking, like, these places that she like, really valid questions about the places that I visited and the places that she wants to visit. So I have her like track in her phone also all the countries that we've been to and all the states that we've visited, or either she's visited, with relatives or something like that. So I'm up to 24 because I'm trying to see how soon I can get a few more on that list.
That's really good. That's really good. Next question.
It's not enough, though. It's not enough.
Listen. One is enough. So as long as you got, I feel you though, because I'm not up to 20. I think I'm up to like 12.
That's still good though.
12 countries, but drum roll, 2 states. And when this episode comes out,
2 states? No way.
And when this episode comes out, I'll have 1 state to go.
No way. No, but side note though, how I ended up like stepping up my international travel game. Years ago, I was like, oh, I want to meet somebody, whatever. And one of my friends was like, well, okay, well, how am I supposed to sell you, to the bachelors out there? Like, do you speak any foreign languages? Have you been to at least 10 countries? And I was like, no, and no. And he was like, oh, well, we're going to have to work on that because I don't know. So that really lit something under me also. And I was like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to get my 10 stamps. Okay, I'm going to get my stamp game up. So here we are, 20 something countries later.
That's really dope though. So out of those countries that you've been to thus far, what is your favorite one you visited?
My favorites, well, it's a 2-for-1 kind of. Tanzania and Zanzibar, since they're technically part of the same territory. I wouldn't even call that a vacation. That was an experience. Like, that's just in a category by itself, and there's everything else. Kenya gets an honorable mention. No, because I mean, like, I loved Kenya and everything, and like I love Nairobi. But landing in Tanzania, first of all, you spend the whole day practically flying to get there, right? And then when you land, it's just a sea of Black people. So everywhere you turn, it's like people that look like me, people that look like you. It's just all of us, right? So that was eye-opening. And then leaving the airport, everyone kept saying to us, welcome home, welcome home, welcome home. Like, you don't hear that. At least I never heard that anywhere else. I visited. So it was a lot, on the trip. We get there, and day 1 of the trip, after like a few hours of sleep, we get up and we start our adventure going to the market. And as we pull out, we had a guide with us. So she kind of mapped out everything for us, and she was with us, all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So leaving the Airbnb, and we're pulling out to head to the market, and these Maasai men, they come like running up to the vehicle because, they're known. We stayed in Dar es Salaam, so it's the city, but they are just known to be very trustworthy. So they're always the ones that people hire for watchman jobs.
Yeah.
If they want to come into the city and earn an income and stuff like that. So, they're pulling out of the driveway, and we see these Maasai men, and it's like literally a history book coming to life. So you see the red and black traditional fabric, you see the beading, you see the white sandals, you see the walking stick, and we just all kind of panicked because like you don't see that in New York City. So we were just like, oh my God, like what's happening? And our guy, she had a really good giggle because and that's when she told us, they're the ones that usually do all of the security work, throughout the city. So that alone, after like 3 hours of sleep, kind of woke us up. We get to the market, and it's a huge market. It's like, think of a market the size of Barclays Center, and then there's a sub-level to it, right? Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And we walk in, and one of the first things I see, in the Caribbean, in Trinidad in particular, we refer to it as sorrel, that drink, but it's a flower, hibiscus. So I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this looks familiar. Like, I know what this is. And I asked the guy, and I'm like, is this sorrel? I asked our tour guide, and she's like, yes, it's the hibiscus. And then I said, how much is it? And I mean, all the spices and everything, they're so fragrant, they're so fresh, so you can smell everything through the packaging. And it was like 3 bags for $5 or something like that, which for anybody, when they're listening, they know that's a really good price because it was a huge bag. I was like, let me get my wallet here. Hold on. And I started shopping, I started shopping because it was like, it was a piece of home as in Trinidad and Tobago, on the other side of the world. Like I couldn't believe like what I was seeing, what I was smelling, what I was hearing. Like even walking through the market, the vendors, they all addressed us in Swahili because they just assumed that we were local.
Yeah.
And when they weren't responding, our guys, they were laughing. They were like, oh, they think that you guys are local. That's why they're talking to you in Swahili and not talking to you guys in English. And it felt so good, Tasia. It felt so good to be in something like that. Like, and again, you're seeing the Maasai, they're just kind of walking around the market, like seeing all these men and women, whether they're in like Western wear or traditional wear, and just all coexisting in this marketplace. So that for me was like really great. The food, the fruits, the freshest food I've ever had. We talk about farm to table. Like, no, literally, you want lobster? Please hold. They're about to go to the ocean to go catch it, right? Like, literally. It was just an experience. One of the nights that this is on Zanzibar now, one of the nights that we were there, heading out to a restaurant, and there was a traditional wedding happening, like in a clearing on the side of the I guess the highway to get to the restaurant. And our guy was like, oh, there's a wedding happening over here. And she's like, you guys want to go? And we're like, of course. So we pull over, and they were very accommodating and everything. They let us stand there. And, I have my shoulders out. I have a skirt on. And in my mind, I'm thinking, they're probably wondering, what sort of Muslim is this with a short skirt on, her shoulders exposed? But it was just so good to bear witness to that. And again, it's like you're seeing your
Mm-hmm.
history book come alive. It's like seeing something you see on National Geographic, like yeah, and not to fetishize
Yeah.
any of
Yeah.
it, but it's like to see that come to life, and that's day to day for them,
Yeah.
but for us it was like we don't see this every day. So yeah, so for me that was just really, it was an experience all by itself, and I wouldn't even waste my time to compare it to any other place,
Mm.
because you can describe it as much as you want. It's just something
Mm-hmm.
you have to witness. It's something you have to experience um, on your own. Like the beauty of the people, the food, the culture, the land, the water. You have to see it for yourself. Tanzania and Zanzibar. So yeah.
That's when you went for your birthday, right?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, I know. Do you know it's crazy though, because okay, so people listening, right? So remember Tasia said we met through traveling. My birthday is in December.
Mhm.
Tasia, yours is in May, if I'm correct,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So I mean December is Christmas time. People are with their families, they're around, whatever. So it was a delayed birthday trip. So we had Terrence and I initially, we were like, okay, we'll extend the invitation to a bunch of people. But
Mhm.
he's like, low key, nobody's gonna show up, right? It's just gonna be two of us. And I'm like, that's all right though, because we're good when we travel together. Like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
knows how to tolerate my foolishness, and he
Yeah.
just deals with me. Um and then the trip switched from, because it wasn't even Tanzania originally. It
Mhm.
was, I think we were going to do South Africa and Madagascar, or the Maldives and South Africa, like
Mm.
something like that, right? Something like that. Because he likes water sports, like things that you can die. He likes those
Yes.
type of stuff. Um, and I don't even know how it ended up switching, but it ended up switching to Turkey, to Tanzania, to Zanzibar, to Kenya, and then back to the United States of America. And everyone kind of dropped out.
Yeah.
And I was just like, F it. I'll go on this 10-day trip by myself. Like, I don't care. I'm
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
canceling. And then two of my other friends who I travel with also, they were like, we're coming. So it was actually going to be three of them initially, but one person, she just started a job, so she couldn't take time off, but she just started that position, so she couldn't go again. So it was three of us that did that Tanzania Kenya trip. So yeah.
Yeah. I saw the pictures and I was like, dang, I couldn't make it
I
work.
know, but I mean, you had a good time in Vietnam though. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
listen, this might be the year that I have to go ahead this school year. I might have to go ahead and get a doctor's note, girl. And head out there, because I feel so bad. I'm like, oh my goodness, we haven't been able to do a trip since then.
And then this year, I was like, hey, Colombia. You was like, actually, I just got back from there. And I
Yeah,
was
no,
like,
but I liked Colombia though. I liked Colombia. They was cool. They
yeah,
was cool. They was fun. They was fun. So
yeah,
yeah.
I liked it. And thank you for the information too.
Yeah, no problem. Especially that tour guide, because
Yeah.
I mean it's refreshing now when you travel and you see a lot of us
Yeah.
as the tourists also, so that's really refreshing. And then to also see that it's us out there too doing tours and stuff like that. And like, yes, let's go on ahead and recycle these dollars. I'm all for it. So
Exactly.
yeah. So that's pretty cool. And what I, at least in my opinion, my observation, that depending on the country, um, the population, if they are of African descent and they see tourists that are there that are of African descent, so they're from the region,
Mm-hmm.
they get way more excited
Yeah.
about you than, when we think tourists, what we typically see,
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
know? So that was really cool when, at least my first time I went to Jamaica, I surprised my younger brother with a trip there. He had never been. He's always wanted to go. And everyone was just so shocked that, one, we were brother and sister, like we were not a couple, because my brothers are giants, and then there's me. My sister's pretty tall too. My sister's 5'11", and again, there's me. So for people listening, I'm not that tall. I barely made it to 5'3", like barely, right? And my brothers, one is 6 feet, one is 6'4", my sister's 5'11", and there's me, right? And they were like, you guys sure? You sure he's not old? And I'm like, no, I am the adult on this trip. You run everything by me first. And like all the touristy stuff that we did, the locals and the other tourists, they were much more interested in my brother more so than me, because, hearing my brother speak, we're telling them we're both born and raised in the same place, but I sound different from, my brother, having lived here, and my accent is watered down a bit, to a degree. So they were much more fascinated, talking to him about Trinidad than, talking about Jamaica. So that, that's been our experience, even coming through Tanzania. They don't really see passports from Trinidad very often. So they were, in the airport, they were like passing my passport around, and they were like, look at it, like, look at the different places she's been to. I mean, they were really polite and everything, but that was very cool to see, because, again, it's far as hell. So it's not like, if you're you have to make a deliberate decision, to spend 15, 16, 17, 18 hours traveling to get to a place. So it's, they don't see passports from Trinidad and Tobago there very often. So they were very excited to see mine. So that was cool. Yeah.
And you said, shucks, I get excited when I see us traveling. I'm just like, I want to give them the fist. Someone like I see you. I see you too. Especially in places where you quotation marks around. It's like we don't traditionally travel. It's just and one of my good friends, which is also my travel partner, like we talk about this all the time. Like we there, like we're traveling anywhere that our passport and our dollars would get us. We're going to see.
Oh, for sure.
I'm there. Vietnam. I tell a story all the time. People looked at me like I had 3 heads. Like, why you on
here? Because I can. Because I can. And I try to avoid the regular touristy places in a country, because it's like, that's like, it's overdone. Like, you don't need to see my pictures on this beach because everyone's been here. Let me find another beach that people don't go to often. So that governs like where I want to go, and then also where I have visa free access to. That also plays a big, well, that's really the first one, and then from there I kind of navigate from there. And that's how my trip to London to go see my sister run her first marathon, that's how that got really complicated, because the initial plan was just too costly. And I was like, this makes no sense. I could visit a whole bunch of other countries. And I just, like, I swear to God, Tisha, I think I was just in bed and I flew up and I'm like, I'm gonna go to Malaysia. Like, literally, I have no clue what motivated me to go. I have no idea. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take the long way to London. If I'm gonna spend all this money, let me make it worthwhile. And then so I had that. I was like, okay, I can just do Malaysia and then back to the UK. And then again, Terrence, who is affectionately referred to as my travel hubby, because you saw us being polite there when you met us. But girl, if you get him on the phone now, he wouldn't. As I said, he tolerates my foolishness quite a lot, though. But yeah, so I was like, what do you like? What do you think? Like, and he was like, Singapore is right there, Melissa. Why don't you just go to Singapore after? And I was like, perfect. So Singapore got added, and this is all solo, okay? And I was like, all right. So after Singapore, how the hell am I about to get to London now? And I found my flight, and it had a layover in Qatar. I was like, ooh, another stamp. Here we go. And then I got to London, saw my sister run, landed here in New York, and I had henna on my hand. So the customs and border agent, he's like, where are you coming from? Like, London. And he's looking at me and he's like, no, really, where are you coming from? I'm like, sir, London. And he looks at my hand. I was like, oh, I got that in Qatar. And he's like, yeah, that's what I meant. Like, where are you coming from? So I told him, my whole long about way getting to London. And he starts flipping through my passport and starts asking about like the different places that I've been, like what do I like about it, but not interrogating me, like legit having a conversation, like he's trying to map out a vacation for himself, right? And the people behind me, they're like looking, because you're in the airport, you just want to get out, get home, and get on with your life. And I'm like, sir, is there anything else that you need from me so I can go ahead and go take a shower and stuff? And he was like, oh, have you been here? Have you been there? And I'm like, mister, this is not the place for this. This is not the place for this. Give me back my documents and have a blessed day, So yeah, so that I've encountered that a few times where, they're looking to stamp whatever in your passport, or they're doing whatever with your passport, and they start flipping through my old passport. That one's expired. And, they see all the stamps and they just, then suddenly it's like 2 or 3 people gathered around my documents. And then I'm like, am I in trouble? What's happening here? But that's cool as a Black person to experience that. Like, yeah, as you said, we outside too.
Exactly. That's how you got all them damn stamps. You going to London, I'm going to Malaysia, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there.
Yeah, listen, we are finding flight deals, cheap deals, just like, some of these other folks out here, our non-Black folks out here. For that, that's the only thing for me. I think that's why I'm still at 20 something in my travels, because of my teaching schedule. I'm limited as to when I can fly, because it's not like, some people you find really good deals, $200 round trip to the Barbados, but you got to go next week, and for 4 days. If I had a different job that had that kind of flexibility, for sure, I'd be one of those. And I'd be flexing on the gram too with my $200 round trip ticket. I don't give a shit. Because guess what? I use my money to get here. Okay?
Exactly.
Not judging anybody else who doesn't use the money. So yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so what do you prefer better? Solo or group trips?
It depends on the purpose of it. Solo, if I need to clear my head, I need to reconnect, if it's self-care, something like that, that's the purpose that solo trips, they serve for me. It's on that trip, it's just totally about me. On solo trips, I always pencil out one day to do nothing. And that do nothing could be wake up whatever time and go back to sleep. That one day could be, all right, well, you know what, today I'm just going to do room service today and just never leave this bed. Like one day to do something like that. And group trips, it depends on where it is I'm going, because at least how I usually plan my trips for a calendar. Yeah, once I get the school calendar, I start marking off the days, that I have vacations, stuff like that. And then the 2 point people that I always travel with, I send my calendar off to them because they have flexibility and I don't. And they have those dates, and then it's like, well, all right, what are the 2 countries or 3 countries that we really want to see? And then yeah, that's how I do the group trips. But for solo stuff, it doesn't even have to be out of the country. I just to be by myself, like literally by myself, which has been very difficult to do because of this panorama and everything that's happening outside. But it's been really hard to do. And for me, solo trips is how I reset. So it's like my finger's really close to the reset button, but I just haven't been able to press it just yet. So that's what I'm hoping for, like the chance to just go on a trip and truly be by myself for a few days. And then I think, I'll be okay. I'll be better, I should say. I'm okay, but I'll be even better. So what about you? Solo or group? Or have you ever done solo trips before?
No, I haven't done, not a real like solo trip. Like I've gone to like a conference by myself, but
not a trip.
Not a trip. So, yeah, I don't know where it was supposed to be. New Mexico.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to go ahead and invite myself to that because that's on my travel list. So
well, actually,
pick another state for a solo trip. Listeners, I'm notorious for inviting myself places on trips, just to FYI. Okay.
So, but then I was like, I will bring my mom along because she wants to go see the state or whatever. So I'm like, where am I gonna go? Should I do a solo trip in the United States first, get my feet wet, right? And then, branch out into international. So I think it will be a stateside trip. I don't know where yet. I don't know when, but I that's how I'm gonna do it.
Okay, sounds good.
But as far as
good to do it, yeah.
Group trips, planning those trips, man. But see, it's like this. This is where I'm going, especially like for my birthday. Hey, I plan everything out. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to see. You're free to come. You're free to partake in these activities. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. I'm not one of those people that we have to do everything together. No. And that's it. Like, I'm not going back and forth, this and that. Like, I don't, because I'm just waiting. I will go on this trip by myself.
No, I hear it's like finding the right group of people to travel with, and running has taught me that lesson too, because it's one thing for us to like run together in the park on the weekends, but it's something totally different for us to share a hotel room for 3 nights,
right?
So yeah, totally different. And again, through running, that's how I also was able to visit states. Like, you got to go for the race, so that's how I ended up visiting Chicago and San Francisco. And yeah, that race in San Francisco was the last Nike women's half marathon. So that one was really special too, because we didn't know it was the last at that time, but it was the last. And just even getting out there, like it was just craziness, But a lot of the people that I met on that trip, mind you, the folks that organized the trip, they had rented out this mansion in Wine Valley, and it was a bunch of people there. And it's like, your 10 friends are hanging out at a mansion. What do? You invite 5 more, right? So it's just like a house full, like almost 40 something people. Not all 40 something of
What?
them were staying there, but at a point, like it was like 40 something people there. And I didn't know anybody. Like the one girl that I knew, she was one of the folks organizing everything. And I was like, well, all right, Melissa, time to go ahead and break out that social butterfly because
Mm-hmm.
you're just going to be sitting in a corner by yourself.
Yeah.
And fast forward, we had some plumbing issues. The landlord kicked us out, like 20 something of us.
What?
So we had to go pack up in like another person's apartment. And yeah, we've like legit some of those people that were there in that apartment 5, 6 years ago, how many ever years ago, I am still friends with those people, some of those
Nice.
people, because yeah, it was just like, Jesus, please, Jesus, Jesus, be a flight right now because this too much. This is too much. So yeah, so running has afforded me that opportunity also to meet some cool people and go to some cool places too in the country. I haven't done any international races, but you
Oh, that's dope. That is dope. I do want to get a little more into running. I just have
okay,
a couple more questions
sure,
about traveling, right?
yeah.
So, how important is traveling to you? And then how important is traveling with your daughter at this age? Like, how important is it that she travels with you?
So traveling, traveling is important to me because as a classroom teacher, the population that I serve, they're children that look like me, sound like
Mm-hmm.
me, similar backgrounds, right? To me, I have the ability, and some might say the luxury, to go see the things in my social studies book in real
Mm-hmm.
life,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And for my kids as in my classroom, my students, my kids, a lot of them, they don't ever get that exposure. And because, for whatever reason in this lifetime, you may never be able to get there. I want you to see that somebody that looks like you, I want you to see that your teacher has made it there. I've seen these things with my own eyes. And if I can do that, then
Mm-hmm.
you can do that too. Like visiting these places, it isn't exclusive to one group of people. It isn't exclusive to a particular income bracket. It isn't exclusive to any of that at all. So it's important for my kids to see that diversity in tourism because they have great cultural stories to tell, but it's just that sometimes they're just never given the chance to
Mm-hmm.
share, their cultural background. So for me, that's really important. If I'm teaching my kids something about, I don't know, Mexico, then I can pull up my pictures and say, see, I've been to this pyramid. This is what it looks like in real life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a more authentic learning experience for them, at least in my experience. Um, Traveling with my child, why that's important. We know how, you know let's face the facts. We know how non-blacks, how they get down, that attitude of entitlement, that they've seen it all, they do it all, we don't do nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think it's important for her to travel, so when she is a young woman,
Mm-hmm.
no one can make assumptions and say because she looks the way that she looks, or because her parents, or any of those things, that she's never been to places. So when they start having a conversation about wherever,
Mm-hmm.
she can say, oh no, I've been there, but I didn't like the food, I didn't like the temperature, I didn't like this hotel, I didn't like she can contribute. She's just not sitting on the side feeling like, oh my goodness, I haven't experienced life. And
Mm-hmm.
you can experience life without traveling, but we know how the non-blacks and browns, how they can get down, right? So for me, I think that it's important for her to again see her social studies book, see the map come
Mm-hmm.
alive, for her so she can say, you know, I really like the fish in this country, but the fruits we had when we visited this place, that was the best grapes or the best watermelon. I want her to have that authentic experience. So when she's a young woman, when she's an adult, folks know what time it is with her. She's not new to this, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So, and again, maybe it's a little bit of my bias. I think I kind of slowed down my traveling for my mom and my aunts, because that's when she dead stopped to her traveling. Because my mom, along with her sisters, most of her sisters, they traveled extensively, especially throughout the Caribbean. And my mom just kind of cut down on traveling when she was pregnant with me, and she was in Aruba, and they were on this drawbridge, and like they didn't realize the whistle or whatever it was for them to get off the bridge, because they had to open it. And my mom is on one side with her big belly, and my aunts are on the other side. And my mom saw the bridge opening, and she was like, you know what? I'm going to jump, because that's a smart thing to do. I'm going to jump to the other side. And the folks are trying to tell her, like, no, ma'am, keep still. The bridge is going to close back. Like, relax. And my mom is there attempting to jump. And thankfully, she had a little common sense. And she did not jump, or else my mommy nor me would be here at this time. So she was so shook from that experience. You know, when she shares her travel stories, most of them, they don't go beyond having me, like the exciting stuff. Yeah, I don't think she's done much after having me. But I say all that to say, I want, like how I have my own travel stories now, I want my daughter to be able to have her travel stories. And even if she's only been to 5 places, she can speak with authority about those 5 places that she's been to. Yeah. So yeah, life is so much more than outside of the tri-state, and people think it's so costly to go places. It's not. I mean, you just have to make the effort to research, but you can find really affordable stuff now out there. And I know, like, some airlines, some companies, they do like a version of layaway to do that. So, like, listen, if that's what you got to do, there ain't nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
Nothing's wrong with that. Yeah.
All right, you want to go see these places? Where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
All right, so I'm going to transition back into your running.
Okay.
What got you into running?
Left teaching, as I said, and I was just home because, all of my friends are at work, and I was like, well, what am I gonna do? And the year that I left teaching, New York City literally had a blizzard every weekend. So there was all the snow on the floor. So it's like, why do I need to leave the house? And then one of my cousins said, you can order laundry detergent and cereal from Walmart. I said, what? Well, girl, no, I'm not leaving the house at all. I'm not ever going back outside. So your diet is the same, but then you're not moving around. So, Mel put on a few pounds here and there. So I'm like, okay, I have to, kind of figure something out. And on Facebook, I think that's where I came across Black Girls Run, which, they have chapters all throughout the country and chapters here in New York City. So I joined the group, and I was living in Brooklyn at the time. And it so happened that they had a group that met not terribly far, like a 10-minute bus ride from where I lived, to meet on the track. So I used to run in high school, but 100 meter, 200 meters for sprinting. So no endurance and no, at all. So I would go once or twice a week, however often it was. And that just kind of reignited, like, oh, this feels really nice. And then also that was a really good outlet for me too, because leaving work, I had some major personal stuff happening in my life also. So that it running came in, long distance running at least came in at the right time as another outlet for me to channel all of that. So the solo travel and running, they kind of appeared in my life at the same time. So I started running with them, and I was like, okay, I did this 10K and I feel really good. Like, what next? And I signed up for the Brooklyn Half Marathon because that year, well, the year that I looked at it, one of my friends ran, but it was like 20 something people that ran that year. And I was just like, I was just so fascinated. Like, wow, like you ran from Prospect Park essentially all the way to Coney Island. Like this is cool. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sign up. And I signed up, and I joined another running group. Majority of the folks are West Indian, so that was an additional layer of comfort, lean, strong, fast. And the founder of the group is actually childhood friends with Terrence.
Oh,
yeah. So I signed up for the half, did that, no training, anything, felt really good. And then, people who live and breathe running, like that's really all they talk about is running, right? Like really great people, but they always talk about running. And they were like, well, what's next for you? I was like, I'm going to go home and go to sleep. I don't really know what else you want me to tell you. And they're like, you don't have any other races? I'm like, no. So everyone was like, there's Chicago Marathon coming up, and the lottery was still open. And I'm a procrastinator. I always get the job done, but I procrastinate. I can admit to that. And let's say the lottery was closing Wednesday night at midnight. No lie, Tasia, I got on the computer like 10 something p.m., put my name in the lottery, knowing damn well, I'm like, you're not going to get in the lottery, girl. So whatever, just go ahead and put your name in. And then the next day, when everyone's saying, oh, they got in, I get an email saying, congratulations. And I was like, I didn't order anything from Chicago. What are you talking about? And then I got into the lottery. And I was like, wait, all right. I was able to wing those 13.1 miles. You can't wing 26.2. This is hours on your feet here.
Yeah.
So again, my travel hubby, Terrence, shout out to Terrence, who he was like, oh, you have to meet my friend Marlon, who the running group Lean Strong Fast. Like, he's this awesome runner. And yeah, that's how I got my feet wet in with long distance running. And I did Chicago that year. I got in the lottery the following year. And I also qualified to run New York City. That was the only marathon that I wanted to run. So the following year I did Chicago and then New York City. They're like a month apart. And after that, I was like, F this shit. I ain't got time for this. I'm like, y'all want me to bring the waters? You want me to set the tables up? You want me to bring the snacks? You want me to bring the liquor? I'll do that. I'm not, I ain't got time. So I haven't done a marathon since then. I've done, half marathons here and there, 10K, like here and there. But 26.2, I'm not in the frame of mind. I'm not in the, I would have to start, for me to do that, I would have to start with a couch to 5K program and then kind of work my way up, because even though my body is relatively conditioned to do it, like if I'm forced to do it, I can get it done. It may not be, a great time, but I can get it done. But my mind isn't there. And if your head isn't in the game,
Yeah.
like you're gonna start imagining body pains,
Mm-hmm.
thinking you broke your ankle, like all sorts of foolish stuff. And I just know like I'm not in the mind frame, nor do I want to be in the mind frame to run a marathon in the next 12 to 16 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. So I'm slowly working my way back to that because I signed up for a virtual half marathon.
Oh.
Yeah, and that I have to get that done. I think the window is like mid-September to October 1st, something like that. So
Okay.
that's my way of mixing up my fitness activity. Because after I was like, F this marathon training, I just went full time with my weightlifting stuff. I was crossfitting and running, like opposite ends of the spectrum. Talk about
Mm-hmm.
abuse to your body. Do
Mm-hmm.
not recommend, okay, 0 out of 10 doing those two things at the same time. And once I stepped away from running marathons, I was able to find a healthy balance between running and my weightlifting stuff. So, yeah, slowly trying to get back to finding that balance between those two things.
That's
And
that's dope.
yeah, making sure, I my Meg Thee Stallion knees are intact. Even though one swole over the weekend, I was like, oh girl. So, but I'm trying, Tasha. I'm trying, girl.
That's dope. And then what made you get into weightlifting?
Because I love seeing physically strong women.
Mm-hmm.
Like now I look fit.
Mm-hmm.
I look like in my head what a physically strong woman would, an iteration of that. I look like that. But
Mm-hmm.
all throughout my life, up until having my child, I was a bag of bones. And I
Mm-hmm.
know, for some women, they like, oh, I want to be a size 0. No,
Mm-hmm.
it's not fun. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like, I was just like, I don't want to be this skinny. Like, those of you that want to be that size, that's cool. I've lived this all my life. I have no
Mm-hmm.
interest in being, I literally felt like a bag of bones. I didn't have low self-esteem or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like, ma'am, I can see your collarbone. I can see your hip bone. That's a problem. And I just never wanted to continue looking that way. And where I started CrossFitting, interestingly enough, it's one of my sister's friends. He opened the box, and on Facebook, like if I tag you in a picture, even if your friends aren't my friends, like
Mm-hmm.
everybody will see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was something like that, and I was like, "What is this CrossFit? What is this about?" And she was like, "Oh, I texted my friend. He's expecting your call." I was like, "Oh boy." So I called and I went, and I did like the introductory stuff. And again, this thing, all of this kind of happened when I left teaching. So I really
Mm-hmm.
had time to just dedicate my free time to doing all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I kept on going like 1 month, 2 months, and I just really enjoyed one, the transformation that was happening with
Mm-hmm.
my body, but then two, just, and I know people laugh at CrossFit and they're like, oh, it's cultish, and but it's not. You're really building a community
Mm-hmm.
of people, because whether or not you have self-esteem issues or not, like, you walk into a box, there are no mirrors there. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not about how cute you look in your pants, like, it's no. Are you finna do this exercise or no? Because we got another class coming up. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just really about the work, and it was really about, okay, you're struggling. We're gonna get in there and struggle with you, and we're gonna get this workout done with you. Even if you're the last person, it was never, well, I finished. All right, guys, see you tomorrow. It's like, oh, this person has a few more rounds to go. We're gonna get in there. We're gonna clap them up. We're gonna do whatever it is they need to get it done. So that was a great sense of community. And
Mm-hmm.
I like that, because even though the workouts, some workouts, they felt like death, it was like, well, all 12 of us are going to die together. So why not? So the camaraderie from that, coupled with the camaraderie from running, it was
Mm-hmm.
like that just became, that was my drug for me. That was my healthy drug. Say no to drugs out there, people. But that was my happy place for me, for sure. Again, even if I wasn't interested in the fitness part of it, just the camaraderie and just,
Mm-hmm.
the people that I met, like I enjoyed that a whole lot more. And crazy enough, like doing stuff like that, it forced me to be a more social person, because I'm an
Mm-hmm.
introvert by nature. Like I'll be fine to manage in a small group of people, but you put me in a bigger setting, and I'm like, I'm taking my shit, I'm going home. And it's not like I'm afraid to talk to people, I'm intimate. Like it's not any of that. I don't do well. Like
Mm-hmm.
somebody will say hello and I'll get irritated, I'll get angry. It's like little things like that. And the people that know me well, they recognize those
Mm-hmm.
signs really early. So they're like, Melissa, you getting ready to go home, aren't you? I was like, you know it. I'm gonna see you all in the group chat. So doing that really forced me to become a more sociable
Mm-hmm.
person. Like it's okay to just go up to somebody and say hello. Like, say hello and keep it moving. Make some small talk and keep it moving. So I'm grateful to have those folks in the fitness community. Yeah, along the way.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about as far as like the communities. Same thing in cycling and
Mm-hmm.
skating. You have these people that love doing these other activities. My friends who I grew up with or who I hang out with may not enjoy riding a bike or skating,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a community of people who do. And if we're training for something, I know that they're going through the same thing. Just like you said, like, all right, we're
Yeah.
we're all training for this century or this race or this
Yeah.
marathon. So we are all together in this, and we could push each other, support each other, or what have you. Whereas, your friends and family who aren't into that will be like, all right, so we not going out, we're not drinking, we're not doing this. You're like, no, I
Mm-hmm.
can't because I have to wake up super early to,
Yeah.
so I think anyone who's going on any type of journey, find a community, find a tribe
Yes.
of like-minded individuals who are on that same journey, because it'll make it 10 times better.
Yeah,
you know
and as you mentioned, like, the uptick in black cyclists,
mm-hmm.
and they were in existence before, you know, COVID decided to come tap dance her way around the country and the world. Um, for you, like, how has the community, I won't even say accepted, but like, how does the black cycling community, how do they feel about this uptick in black cyclists? And especially like more and more women. How
Yeah.
has that been?
um it's been great. And
Mm-hmm.
just speaking to other cyclists, it's like you are happy to see other black people on
Mm-hmm.
bikes,
Mm-hmm.
especially on certain routes where I'm, on one side and the other side, and I see a black person, I'm waving to them. I'm giving
Yeah.
them a head nod.
Yeah.
You wave to other cyclists in general, but I'm waving to a black one especially. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
woman. Oh, what's up, sis?
Yeah.
So I think everyone's happy,
Good.
that now that you see more of us on on the road. It's
Yeah.
like I'll wave to somebody, I'll give them a head nod in a
Mm-hmm.
minute, so yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. It's refreshing to see. Listen, when people say representation matters, it's not just a phrase. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Bringing it to life.
It really
Definitely bring it to life.
it really does.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of representation, um
Nice segue.
exactly, right? I said that right, right? What is represent we?
Okay. So Represent We, it's a people powered initiative to advocate for a local law that would grant municipal voting rights to green card holders, DACA recipients, and other work permit holders. That's it in a nutshell how the law is written. In everyday speak, it's the black and brown folks that give this city flavor, that give this city
Mm-hmm.
culture, that make the wheels turn, that keep us safe, that pay their taxes, that own property, that own businesses, that contribute to their community, and now being given the opportunity to join the political process and to be able to vote
Mm-hmm.
for the mayor of New York City, to be able to vote for, the council representative for their district. So that was founded off of that when I discovered that bill, because I am a green card holder.
Mm-hmm.
I pay my taxes way more than Trump, by the way. Okay, let the record show. And yet, I stand in front of my kids and I always, tell them, be seen, be heard. And here I am, paying my taxes, doing my due diligence. Yeah, I'm seen, but am I really being heard in the political process? So it is to advocate for folks like me to be able to vote and join the political process at the local level. The law is only to
Mm,
shift the voting rights at the local level.
okay. And it needs to be shifted.
Yeah, it's for sure, definitely, definitely for sure. I mean the bill was introduced in 2020, January 2020.
Mm-hmm.
It's the third version of the bill ever introduced in City Council, but I think because of we're all kind of forced to stay inside, right? Well, not
Yeah.
so much now, but
Mm-hmm.
then.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there is no turning your eye away from the issues at hand. Like we were forced to take a good look at the problems that as a city, as a state, as a country that we were facing.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing the protests happening. And for me, my thing is, as an American citizen, you go out, you protest, you get arrested, somebody bails you out, it's all good. For an immigrant person, whether they be documented, undocumented, whether they be legal permanent resident like myself, whether they are a DACA recipient, aka a dreamer, you go out, you protest, you get arrested. The consequences are very different. The
Mm-hmm.
consequences are different. So, if you can do all of those other things, if you're willing to put your life on the line, your freedom on the line, you get up, you go to work, whatever the case is, then to the fullest extent of the law, you should be able to participate, because I can legally still donate money to any political campaign, any political organization, any candidate that I want, but I can't take part in that political process at the
Mm-mm.
local level,
Mm-hmm.
which to me it's problematic, because again, if I have a restaurant, right, I have a nightclub, I have a hardware store, whatever the case may be, I'm employing folks in the community,
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to tell me my taxes that goes towards paying this politician that's representing my neighborhood, and I know that this man or this woman, they're involved in some shady stuff, and I can't at least make my one vote count towards not getting the shady person, the shady individual, away from the
Mm-hmm.
political seat. That's really problematic. And immigrant voices, and I'm going to speak specifically to the Caribbean or West Indian experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of always gets removed from conversations like this, because folks are protesting, and you hear folks quoting and talking about Marcus Garvey and Stokely Carmichael and Franz
Mm-hmm.
Fanon. Those are all people rooted in West Indian culture.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like you're quoting authors and scholars with West Indian roots, but then there is no West Indian representation in the rest of the conversation. So that's how Represent Me kind of came about. The good sis, Black Girl SOS, guys, check it out. She is really critical to the work of Represent Me. She
Mm-hmm.
supports the legal aspect. She's the head legal in charge at Represent Me, head legal counsel in charge there. And it was literally, like, no lie, Tasia, it was literally just a conversation last year around this time, her and I on the phone. And I was like, I'm thinking, I found out about the bill, like, I don't know. And she's like, we're gonna figure it out. Here's your homework. We'll have these check-ins once a week, and then we'll take it from there. And I do my homework, and as I said, she is the legal counsel, so she'll understand the legalese language of all of this
Mm-hmm.
and to break it down. And it's so crazy that the notebook that I have, that I would always take my notes in, and like some of the organizations that she listed, these are the ones that I should try to reach out to or work with or get on board with. A lot of those organizations, that's kind of manifested itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't even like I wrote it down, but just never even looked at it again until I think like a few months ago. And I was just kind of rereading some notes. And I said to her, Tasha, my friends and all of this, I said, can you believe, like, I'm looking at these notes, and here it is, these individuals or some of these organizations, Represent Me has been able to create a relationship with them, a genuine relationship, not based on favors, not just by going out there and doing the work. So yeah, it's social media is great and it's helpful. But this was, for it to have grown to the way that it was really being out there in public, having conversations with folks and growing the awareness of Represent Me. And of course my tribe, like, the people who have been, it's like 5 people who've been really critical from the first conversation of Represent We up until to where we are now, which is a public hearing for the bill on the 20th of September. So at City Hall, to fast forward to that, to a year later, that, the school teacher, it's like the little engine that could, the idea, it became something tangible.
Yeah.
And here it is. And there's a possibility a strong possibility, I should say, that this bill could become law. And that's something that wouldn't just affect me personally. Like, yes, I personally benefit from it.
Yeah.
But practically my whole neighborhood would benefit from something like that. Huge sections of Brooklyn and the Bronx and Queens would benefit from a bill like that becoming law. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah. A lot of
Right.
neighborhoods. New York City would benefit.
Oh yeah, for
Like,
sure.
we live in a melting pot.
Yeah, it's like, according to the data, recently released data from the census, it is upwards of 600,000 people in New York City within the 5 boroughs that would benefit if this bill were to become law. That's 600,000 people added to the political conversation. Do you know how impactful that
Yeah.
is?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, looking forward to it, girl. Looking forward to it.
Well, that's dope. That is really dope. And
And thank you for your continued support always, always, always. Thank you for that.
yeah, anything that I could do, just let me know. And speaking of that, what can people do to spread the word, or like how can other people help?
Definitely follow the Instagram page at Represent We. And in the link tree, all the information is there, whether it's the change.org petition, whether it's the representwe.nyc website. And in that website, one click, I promise you it takes no more than 2 minutes, if so much. In one click, you email all the city council representatives, all 51 of them, uh, in addition to a few senators, state senators, and letting them know that you support this bill and this bill needs to become law. So it all pre-populates, less than 2 minutes, you hit send, and that email is sent off for you. So that's the best way. Keeping the pressure on, because the public hearing, we have it, but it's we can't celebrate until the mayor signs off on it and it
Yeah.
becomes official law. So we're still holding our breath just a little. We can't celebrate just yet.
Listen, sending you good vibes, good
Yes,
vibes,
yes,
good
definitely. We'll
vibes,
take
good
all.
vibes, good vibes. Yeah, that's really dope. Like after speaking with you, like representation matters in everything.
Hmm. Yeah,
Representation matters in everything, from traveling to running to doing things that quote unquote we don't traditionally do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Because I'm telling you, these non-black and browns out here, sometimes they don't know their place, girl. They don't know their place. And, we don't want anyone getting into trouble or getting out of character unnecessarily. So definitely the more they see us out and about and occupying spaces, whether it be our own spaces that we've created for ourselves, like they need to know and recognize, because they know, but they need to recognize we outside too. We doing things too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely for our own people, seeing it can be done. Where there's a will, there's a way, and that's speaking to represent we. Where
Yeah.
there's a will, there's a way.
Listen, it takes a village. I might be the face of it, but there's absolutely no way that I can stand on a soapbox and say, well, it's all Melissa. I was the one solely doing all the hard work. It took a village. It took, a tribe of individuals that I trusted, and they trusted me to help bring this from an idea to something tangible, to what it is today.
Yeah.
So I'm forever indebted to them.
Yeah. That's another theme through this conversation. A tribe. Having a
Yeah.
tribe.
I know, no, definitely, definitely. I'm indebted to them. So, and they know who they are. If I can give them a quick shout out, like we're on the radio, like
Yeah,
it's
go ahead.
power. As I said,
Go ahead, go
my
ahead.
my head counsel in charge, who is an attorney by profession, Natasha Lessington. And she has a really great podcast also. And again, she, was one of the first ones to be like, yes, by all means, use my platform to push, share this message. Let's get it out to the masses. Black Girl SOS, my other friend, Naylin, who's been really helpful in, lighting that fire under me. And it's like, Melissa, the people that need to show up, the people that are going to help, the people that are going to listen are the ones that need. You can't focus on the ones that aren't going to support, that you can't put your energy there, So she has also created space for me to help represent we bro. My other friend Marlon, who's always been like a sounding board for all of this, like very objective in his feedback, really helpful in like different ideas, connected me with some really amazing people. To again help move this agenda forward and help build the public awareness behind the bill. And then my other two friends, Carla and Jason, they have also been like really helpful, whether it be, me trying to get different politicians, like when I was doing Mondays with the mayor, securing folks like that, or if I'm like any tech stuff for the website or like pushing stuff out on social media, or just being a sounding board for me when I just need to vent and I feel like human beings, need to be attacked by the aliens. They've been there to listen, listen to that. And my other friend, Artisha, that, despite, her crazy work schedule and everything that's been happening in her life, she always makes time and made time to, listen to what it is I have going on. So I've been very lucky. And I've been blessed to have them support me and support the mission of Represent Me, because it's not about me, from then up until now. So, I look forward to when the bill is law so that we could really celebrate and like really turn up, because it's like, a weight off your shoulder. The work isn't done, but we laid the first block in the ground. We laid the first block. So now it's let's continue building. So that's what we're trying to get to, bro. Get this bill to be law.
That's right. That's right. Well, like I said, sending positive vibes.
We'll take it.
And I know it'll become a law. I'm saying it here. It'll become a law.
Right? Speak it into existence.
Exactly. That's what you gotta do.
Speak it. Listen, the amount of work all the other community organizations have put into this to collectively get it to where it's at, to have, different politicians, city council representatives sign on. It has to become law. It has to, not with all this fire under it. It's like, the finish line is right there. The finish line is right there, and it will happen. We said it here on the show. It will happen.
That's right.
Let's talk our ish, okay?
Exactly. Oh, man. Well, I'd like to thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast and sharing your experiences, giving me some ideas about some places to travel. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, because I know you're a busy lady. So I feel honored that, you consider me to join on your platform. So thank you for that.
Of course. Any final words before we wrap up?
No, as I said, thanks for having me on the show. I wish you continued luck in all of your various adventures. I think that's a really admirable quality about you, that you're just so fearless. It's like I go on Instagram and I'm like, oh, she's doing something else, which I think is so amazing. Given that we're living in a time of uncertainty. So I wish you continued blessings with that. And again, if anyone else wants to find out about what I do, my passion project in the meantime, they could find me on Instagram, Represent Me, for my passion project. And me personally, 868 in the 718, but my page is private because I'm paranoid.
Hey. First of all, that sounded like a rhyme right there.
I know, right? I know. A&R, come get me.
Oh, man. Thank you again, Melissa.
No, thank you. This was fun.
Yeah, this was fun, right? This is the Rolling with Tay podcast. I'm your host, Tasia, aka Tay, and this is episode 16.